Let's start with some inspection of mistakes that I've been making with this car over the past year and a half, however long it's been. So the first thing is the driver's side front fender liner. These fender liners are strong, but they are not designed for storage. Okay, they're designed to be made of the least material for weight reduction, and they're not like something you'd pull off a Honda or Volvo where you just throw it to the side, you wash it, you put it back. You have to put it down carefully. I've stored this outside everywhere. It's always in my way and it's been full of dust. Okay, this is where I just don't have room in this garage. This did not happen here, okay, in this storage position, but in other storage positions I've had, you can see that the felt has cracked a bit at the top. This will still go in just fine. I'm just saying store these carefully if you can over an old wheel. Now another point, you see that area there? That area has thinned out substantially. What is this because of? As you guys know, this car is a body shop special, so nothing aligns up properly. And in all of the courses of testing and trying to figure stuff out over the past year and a half, some of you may have seen it. I never put all the bolts back for the bumper and the fender liner. Sorry, the fender liner bolts I did, but not for the bumper. So I would stick my hand in the back to put some of the bumper bolts back. And I was driving it with partial amount of bumper bolts, and I didn't put the fender liner on fully. So do not make this mistake, because when you turn on stock wheels, it will grab the fender liner even if you go on light drives for tests. This was only between testing this happened, okay? So fender liners, don't sleep on them, okay? If you're doing testing, these cars can get long in the tooth with the annoyances of put the bumper back on, put this back on, test it. But I just wanted to show you the mistakes I've made in terms of storage and not reinstalling it properly, and why people charge an arm and a leg to fix these things, because the shop can't return a fender liner to you like this. Okay, so we are on the driver's side now. So the other in the belt tensioner video, when you saw me move the rocks for the support of the front carrier, you'll remember that the hitch didn't fit and I put a wooden wedge in there. This shouldn't happen, right? But I rushed myself. I was like, oh, I gotta make a video, let me get on to the next stage. I never put in that service position single bolt before I started that video. That's why there was more movement and things moved around. Fortunately, I checked everything inside here and nothing has shifted or broken. But we will also go over more stuff that's going on in here. So the first item I'm going to do off camera is shift the carrier back a bit and put that bolt back in, because as you can see, we are currently way off the mark here. Fortunately, because I had the support at the bottom, nothing further broke. So definitely do the brick supports like I do if you're in service position in a garage like this. Safety for yourself. So I currently don't have a plastic welder to rebuild this piece of plastic. That's going to have to wait. But I am going to put a thinner, more smaller holes guarded mesh behind the mesh that is in the RS4 bumper, because it allows debris, with this car being so low, to get in and damage the auxiliary radiators. Now, I've been very as careful as I can in the testing of this car. This aux rad has looked like this since the beginning, but drops of coolant come from this area. There's a lot of random fins that have coolant in them. I inspected all of the vertical bars for any pinholes, but you usually can't see this stuff. You have to pressure test the system. But this car's starting to really get at me, because I even look, because as you guys have seen, I've removed a lot of coolant hoses, and the coolant hoses could have dripped onto this with all the movements of the carrier, and it's gotten into the fins, because it's really random. There's no consistency. I could definitely not zoom in there, but you guys can see the pinkish colors in some of the random fins there. I am not going to touch this aux rad. God help me if I have to put this thing back in service position after getting a whole ton of parts on this thing afterwards. But we are just going to try to protect the aux rads better, like I said, with putting a a wire mesh behind the RS4 bumper mesh to let less debris inside. And under tray, whatever, okay? Yeah, so I just wanted to show you guys what random things are going on, and it just dumps oil and coolant from random places all the time. Okay, like see, this is again the day after the belt tensioner video. Both of my oil cooler lines are in that little tub, so put a bigger tub because there's still more oil after last night. I gotta clean it up again. And just to show you how it's becoming difficult to trace this stuff, so as I said, there's some weird coolant inside the fins, but inside that plastic tray, all that residue you see there, when you touch it, your finger turns black. It's motor oil. It's not even coolant contaminated. Where everything's dripping and leaking from, I don't know, but we're going to put back together as much stuff as we can and hope these things work out. Now, another point of mention, you can see I haven't put the service position bolt back yet. Now, this is not due to this, okay, could be due to this. And when I say due to this, I mean me moving the carrier like you saw in the belt tensioner video a whole bunch. So we're going to go into this area here. Now, I'm not sure still exactly what this component is. I think it's an aux water pump. It could just be some kind of a sensor because it has a plug to activate the aux rad or not. But we're not changing this part, okay? I think it's like $230, something like that, but it's something I don't know, okay? Do not know. Do your own research. Now, the weird thing here is this also all could be due to the fact that this car is a body shop special with broken plastics everywhere. Could I have gone back when I removed those coolant hoses? I don't care that I complained about the brittle plastics on the back. I would have removed the mount for this before taking those coolant hoses off. Because now the thing is, okay, first I'm going to show you the odd movement. Okay, so if you see how it pops forward, that's forward of the frame rail. It seems like it should be there. Also seems like it should be there. But you see, it can stop in either one of these two positions, and the bushings for the mount are not even that bad. Like, they have these weird cracks in them which are exactly the same on both, which makes me think it's factory or they're broken. I broke them, a body shop broke them, who knows. But doesn't seem like anything should be scraping against a frame rail. This seems to see everything is still good and tight in here. But the electrical connector, so we're going to go to the back of this now. So those are the mounting bolts I was saying to take off, which are sandwiched. The two little cracks in the bushings, I have to hold the light in the camera and I got no help, so I don't know. Just don't do this in your own car. Be really careful in this area is the point of me putting this information in here. Now see that connector? It scrapes up against the washer fluid container a bit. Regardless of any position you put it in, those bushings are not completely shot. It still rubs a hair, just a hair, the wires against the washer fluid container. Could this be a body shop special movement? Maybe. Could this be a me in service position move? Maybe. Could this be those two mounts are actually cracked and slightly off? Maybe. But it all seems to be just fine. So we will keep an eye on this, and this will be a point in the future. If there's some kind of electrical issue, we know where to look. But those wires seem like they're fine, and I'm going to put this back in its position as best it goes. We will know once we put the new hoses in exactly where it should sit, because those hoses are most likely going to situate everything properly. But I wanted to show you to look out for small stuff like this, because most of the time wiring issues on cars are because people do ridiculous things. But if you can keep an eye on them for whatever caused this one, there's nothing wrong with it now, you will most likely have an okay car. Right, so for the 2 seconds that it's focusing, that's where the connector is. Everything should be fine, but we will keep an eye on this. Alright, now with the service position bolt back into the second setting, things have tidied up a bit. It did that without a fuss and nothing moved or creaked and cracked. And you can see that I have now been able to slide the hitch back in. This means that you will have a lot more space to work when it comes time for the belt tensioner if you put this bolt back, because I'll have to go back in my own videos, but there was a reason I removed it, to access some kind of coolant hose better, and we'll most likely take it off when we put the coolant hose back if we have issues. Now we're going to remove the old washer fluid reservoir. We're going to put a new reservoir and cap on this car. The things I'm going to say, okay, the front one, you've seen it taken off in a different video. The coolant level sensor. So Audi have very inconveniently in the center of your screen put the tab to release the coolant level sensor on this side where there is some kind of a hose, seemingly vacuum. So we got to take that out carefully somehow with picks or screwdriver. And also in the center of your screen you see those two little wires deep under there. Those are those little baby wires for the coolant level sensor, so do not tear those out whatsoever when you're under there. Now moving along up to the top here, that coolant hose at the top, you be real careful taking it off, because there's another YouTube video I've seen where somebody breaks this coolant hose further down while doing a carbon clean or injectors or something, and they had to, it was apparently the last part in the country. Okay, so taking a coolant hose off of this reservoir has to be a very delicate affair there. But you got to take that top one off, bottom one off, and there is a Phillips screw right there. And this other screw, we'll understand more about it later, but it does not seem like it needs to be removed. Alright, so with this line, there's some kind of a protective sheathing here that when you come to move it along, you could damage this sheathing. I don't want to find out what the problem is. So I'm just going to hold it in the open position, get it off, and leave the clamp in the same spot. Okay? I don't even want to use a pick on that because it's plastic, whatever. So I'm just going to hold it open and try to gently work it out while the reservoir is still mounted. Okay? Because this allows you more power for what you do. If the reservoir is loose, you're going to have more trouble. So if it's not cooperating with me, I do have to try to slide a pick under there. Hopefully it doesn't damage the hose. Try to keep the contact point onto the reservoir because you're throwing it away, not onto the hose side, so you don't damage it, because we are not replacing this hose. So I'm just going to leave the pick inside to hopefully help me while I'm holding this. And let's see how we do here. Nope, does not want to budge. Alright, so with the pick I'm putting the clamp back for a second. I'm going to grab a second pick. Of course I can't find my other 90-degree small pick, so I have to use a larger 90-degree pick a little bit further away with it clamped open. I should have technically taken that out, but let's open it up, throw another 90 in there, slowly pointing towards the reservoir side, and should pull off with gentle force now. Nope. Oh. If this was any other car, I'd pull a lot harder on this hose. But because of a lack of parts availability, you have to be real gentle and take every precaution with these. And already I'm pushing my luck with all the picks in there. Oh man. Son of a bitch. Well, there you go. You guys saw what happened there. Everything seems to be in decent condition, so on to the next step. Alright, so that vacuum hose for the connector, in front of it, you can gently press it down to access the tab. Alright, I'll try to do this with some kind of a camera angle, but the connector removal part is on this side. Okay, so just use a small flathead screwdriver and be very careful. Actually, that'll be a feature of a don't do that helpful tip. I'm actually going to remove the reservoir and move it up slightly because that'll give me the easiest access to that connector. So stability will be lost, access will be gained. Let's see what happens. Okay, so definitely do this. There's a lot of slack in that wire. Still be careful. You saw some coolant spill out there. Again, I mean, that was a terrible move on my part, but I'm filming. If I wasn't filming, life is better. Now I could get coolant that goes and trickles into my coil packs, but whatever. Oh, we'll have to deal with this stuff if it ever becomes a problem. Hopefully there's documentation of all this stuff if any of those two cylinders ever throw some kind of a misfire. Now we'll look more closely at this coolant reservoir because it is in pretty bad condition. But before we go there, actually, yeah. Alright, here. I'm going to take the camera off the tripod here for a second. You see there those two tabs? Metal tabs on the car side? This one and another one just slide right out. So pull it towards the front emblem of the car and they will gently release. Holding it like this, pointing to the ground, will hold in the remaining coolant, okay, and it won't spill everywhere. Those oil cooler line O-rings have really been leaking consistently, so yeah. I'm going to keep using my trusty IKEA light, but it's gotten pretty banged up during filming, and it's making some nasty electrical smell, so I don't want it to catch fire or cause problems. But yeah, we'll keep an eye on that too. So this little piece here did not need to be removed. It looks like some kind of bump stop that's screwed in there, but keep it in case you need to transfer it over to your new washer fluid reservoir. The one screw, tape it or wire it to the old one until the new one comes in the mail so that you have this screw. I'm going to flip it upside down and show you why you guys should change these. So this is all on the bottom side. You won't really be able to see it. With the best lighting I can, you can see all of those stress cracks. If these let loose at some point, you're going to dump a bunch of coolant. I mean, you can pull over, but who wants to get towed, especially towing an RS4 with all the brainless tow truck drivers that exist out there. So yeah, this is cheap maintenance. Okay, well, nothing's cheap on this car, but it's necessary maintenance. Okay, changing these out if you have the original one. Now let's look at it a little bit more carefully, see if we can find here. There you go, there's more cracking over there, and the camera won't show it, but over here there's more cracking on the top too. Now, if one or two of my Volvo viewers watch these videos, this might be the coolant reservoir system that I somehow use. I'm thinking of doing plastic welding for putting this onto the old Volvo reservoir after we clean it out. Still in the works. It's a big try-and project. I don't know if I'll wait until I get a more of a beater P1 Volvo to really try this test and not do it with mine. But we'll see. But this coolant reservoir is going to be repurposed for sure. This piece, I'm going to use it. Okay, back to Audi land. All right. Okay, so the cap, I don't know that anything is wrong with it, but all right, man, I gotta put the camera down. We are going to change the cap anyways. I'll keep the old one. Maybe we'll cut it open and inspect it to see what kind of parts can wear out on it. But because I'm not a coolant cap master of understanding, we're just going to change it for now and we'll keep this for future, but it's probably more than fine. And before we leave here, it's the same design as the Volvo one. So right there you can see daylight through there. If pressure builds too much, it comes here and it will leak out of that weep hole there before it even blows off the cap. If it even blows off the cap, these newer style cars. So the bolt, I just ran a piece of tie wire through and around, and it has been mounted to the old one so we don't lose it until we get the new one. I've been mentioning this a lot, but I'll mention it more because I've been losing a lot. I've been having a lot of glove fatalities due to Audi OE coolant. This stuff is sticky. It doesn't want to come off, and if it gets onto the carpeted part of your gloves, it's done. Like, you can't get it out. You have to just dedicate them to coolant jobs. So either use nitrile gloves or really clean up the coolant quickly and save your gloves because everything is expensive nowadays.